I want to share 3 example sentences with you. And these sentences are totally fine. They're grammatically correct and the kind of sentences that you and I would use every day. The first one, this bag. This bag is heavy. The second one is, I think that movie was too long. And the third one, my coworker, she talks really fast. Again, there is nothing wrong with any of those sentences. But what if you could say the exact same thing and make someone laugh at the same time, or at least make the moment more memorable? That is exactly what hyperbole does. It's a kind of shortcut to humor and exaggeration for dramatic effect. It's a way to take something totally ordinary, like a heavy bag, and to make it more humorous or more interesting. So let's go back to those 3 sentences. The sentence, this bag is heavy, becomes this bag weighs a ton. Now, a ton in English is equal to 2,000 pounds. And obviously, this bag does not weigh 2,000 pounds. And that's exactly the point. We'll talk more about that in a moment. But let me give you 2 more examples. The second one was, I think this movie is too long. And we could change that to, that movie went on forever. And the third one, my coworker talks too fast, can become, my coworker talks a mile a minute. In each case, we're saying exactly the same thing, but with a totally different effect using hyperbole. English speakers use hyperbole every single day without even thinking about it. And by the end of this lesson today, you're going to start doing the same. You'll have a set of hyperboles you can start using right away to be funnier, more expressive, and sound more natural in English. Now, before we get into all the examples you're going to learn today, I want to do 2 quick things. First, I'm going to set this bag down because I don't need it anymore. And second, I want to talk about why English speakers love hyperbole so much. As I said, they're used everywhere. You're going to hear them in conversations with friends and coworkers. You'll hear them in podcasts, interviews, TV shows, advertisements, song lyrics, everywhere. Once you start to notice them, you can't really stop. The reason we like them so much is they allow us to take these everyday, real situation moments and exaggerate them with absurdity, contrast, and that allows us to make the moment funnier or at least more interesting or more powerful or more impactful. I want you to think about this really common example that gets highlighted often. The hyperbole, I'm so hungry I could eat a horse. Obviously, everyone gets hungry. That's completely ordinary. But eating an entire horse? That's absurd. And the moment someone says that, it paints this bizarre image in your head. The more impossible an exaggeration is, the funnier, more absurd, or more impactful the statement feels. And here's what I love most about hyperbole. When someone exaggerates like this, they're not trying to mislead you. They're actually inviting you in to a shared feeling. It's a way of connecting. So as we get ready to start learning hyperboles you can begin using today, there's something really important I want you to keep in mind. The best way to get comfortable with using them is to hear yourself saying them out loud. And I have a free training called How to Get the Confidence to Say What You Want in English that walks you through exactly how to do that. It's a low pressure way to start practicing speaking English out loud on your own. And now let's get into the example hyperboles we'll look at today. I've split these up into 2 groups. The first group is for things that take too long, and the second group is for when you want to express how intense something feels. So let's start with those hyperboles we use when something just drags, like that feeling of a meeting going on for way too long, or when your inbox never seems to get smaller. In introducing this group, I used that word drag. And to drag on means to move or pass very, very slowly, usually because something is boring or tedious. And English has a whole set of expressions for exactly that. The first 2 work well together: to go on forever and to never end. Both of these describe something that feels endless, usually because it's boring or exhausting. For example, that meeting went on forever. A statement like that is never a positive thing. If something goes on forever, it indicates that endlessness of it, and it's boring, it's tedious. Another example is I stepped away for 5 minutes and got 30 new emails. It never ends. Again, here that hyperbole, it never ends, highlights the exaggeration you feel of the never ending number of emails that come into your daily inbox. Now, in addition to hyperboles that highlight that something drags on, we also have hyperboles that we use to indicate that a lot of time has passed. For example, to not have done something in forever or to not have done something in ages. Both of these mean exactly the same thing. They just mean it's been a really long time. For example, I haven't seen you in forever. I honestly thought you'd moved to Mars. Or I haven't been to the gym in ages. At this point, I think my muscles have retired. Now, again, in both of these examples, I could say I haven't seen you in a really long time, or I haven't been to the gym in a really long time. And those are fine. But by using hyperbole, we exaggerate the reality, making statements that are more powerful and more memorable. So let's look at how we would use these in a real situation. Imagine you run into a coworker in the break room after a very long Monday. She looks exhausted and she says, "Can you believe how long that meeting was?" And you might laugh in response and say, "I know, it went on forever. I'm pretty sure I aged 5 years in that conference room." The combination of "it went on forever" and that last part, "I've aged 5 years," that's the exaggeration. It's what makes it humorous. The ordinary statement is that yes, the meeting went on for a long time. But the exaggeration that it went on forever and that you aged 5 years, that's impossible. And that's exactly the point. Now, a while ago inside my Confident Women community, we actually did a whole 2-week hyperbole challenge. And it was one of the most fun things that we've ever done. Members in our community were trying these new expressions, getting comfortable with them in English, and using them in daily conversations, making each other laugh and realizing how much more expressive they could be in English. That's what the CWC is all about. It's not just more studying, it's a place to actually use what you're learning in English with real women and real conversations. And it's a place where you can practice knowing that it's completely safe to try. If that sounds like something that you would love to be a part of, an opportunity to get real speaking practice using the kinds of vocabulary, expressions, and grammar that you need for daily life in English, I would love for you to learn more and join me inside the Confident Women community. I'll leave a link in the description below where you can get all the details. And now we're going to jump into the second group of hyperboles that we're going to learn today. We don't just exaggerate time. English speakers also love to exaggerate how they feel. For this group, we'll start with one you've already heard in this lesson. "I'm so hungry I could eat a horse." Let's say, for example, that you missed lunch and maybe dinner is still 2 hours away. This expression allows you to say that I'm super, super hungry. And it does so in a way that is more humorous and purposely exaggerated to really highlight the point. Then there's to talk a mile a minute. Now, a mile a minute is incredibly fast. We're talking about 60 miles per hour. So when someone talks a mile a minute, they're speaking so fast that you can barely keep up. You probably can't catch every word. And we might use this in something like, "My nephew talks a mile a minute whenever he brings up dinosaurs." What does that tell you? If someone is speaking a mile a minute when they talk about something specific, it's usually something they get really excited about or passionate about, and we can imagine the energy and excitement they have when speaking that fast. Now, I do have to say, when it comes to speaking fast, I definitely do not recommend this in English. All my fluency school students know this. Speaking a mile a minute is not a good communication strategy. It is not an indication of fluency. It actually just creates more confusion. All right, next up is to sleep like a rock. Now, rocks don't move and rocks don't wake up. So when someone sleeps like a rock, nothing is waking them up. No alarm clocks or bells or loud music, nothing, except maybe some cold water. With this hyperbole, you might know someone who could say, "Good luck waking up my teenager before noon. Once she goes to bed, she sleeps like a rock." Another common hyperbole for this category on intensity is, "I have a million things to do." Now, no one truly has a million things to do, but sometimes it feels that way. So let's say that you're in a hurry to get everything you need finished, and then you run into someone who wants to stop and chat. So in that moment, you might say, "I'm so sorry, I can't chat right now. I've got a million things to do today." Now, of course, in that moment, you could simply say, "I'm super busy," or "I have a lot to do," and that's fine. But again, the idea of a hyperbole is to create a more vivid picture, to make a statement far more powerful. And that's what this one does. And finally, one of my personal favorites from today is, "I nearly died laughing." Now, obviously, nobody really dies from laughing, but when something is that funny, when it's so funny that you cannot stop laughing, when your stomach hurts and maybe even the muscles in your jaw hurt from smiling and laughing so much, those moments are precious and rare. And one of the best ways to describe them is with this hyperbole. "I nearly died laughing." It says everything you need better than any other statement. So now let's see how we could use one of these in a real conversation. And this time I want you to imagine that you're catching up with one of your best friends. And maybe she's sharing her journey of being a new mother. And she admits that she's been very sleepless. And then you ask how her husband is dealing with the lack of sleep. And in that moment, she might joke, "Handle it. Once that guy closes his eyes, he sleeps like a rock. I once dropped an entire pan in the kitchen and he didn't move." With that statement, she's not just saying that he's a deep sleeper. She's exaggerating how deeply he sleeps, painting an impossible but memorable picture in your mind. So now it's your turn to practice. And I want you to start with this. Imagine it's Friday afternoon. You skipped lunch and you had back-to-back meetings all day. Now your inbox has 47 unread emails. And then your friend sends a text message saying, "How's your day going?" How could you respond to her using a hyperbole? If you want, you can share your answer with me in the comments below. And here's one more to practice with. I want you to think about your own week, the week that you're having right now. What is happening in your life? And what's one moment that you could describe with a hyperbole? Maybe it's that something dragged on forever, or maybe something somebody said that made you die laughing. I want you to try putting that moment into words with one of the hyperboles you learned today. And now, as always, if you found this lesson helpful, don't forget to subscribe or follow wherever you're watching or listening from today. Thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you next time.